Hi, I'm Keith Kelfis in Michigan, and I'd like to very quickly tell my story of how I went from employee in the employee mindset to small business owner slash entrepreneur. And how I did that was in the landscape field. I've been landscaping since I was a kid. I'm 30 years old now. Started out when I was 14, actually pushing a lawnmower, helping my father with his lawn care business. So I'd get off school and on the weekends go and help him cut grass for cash. So getting cash at a young age was great, but I was still working. My father was telling me what to do and things like that. So as I got about 17, 18 years old, I went and got a job at a company cutting grass because I had always heard my entire life, get a job, fill out an application, oh, you gotta get a good job. I didn't hear anything about, start a business, be an entrepreneur. So I got my first real, I've had plenty of jobs in between that as a teenager, but within the landscape field, job cutting grass, doing landscaping. And as an employee, I worked very hard, tried to show up on time every day. I was reprimanded or scolded if I was late or if I missed a day here and there. But I tried hard to impress the boss and work hard, and eventually I got a raise. I was $9.50 and went to $10 an hour, worked hard the entire year. And me as a 17, 18-year-old kid making $4.50 to $4.80 a week, I mean, I thought that was great. I had my cell phone and I was buying new clothes and I went out and got my own first apartment and things like that. And I was so ingrained in the employee mentality thinking, if I impress my boss and I work hard and show up on time every day, that he's going to give me a raise and then one day I can be a foreman. And I did become a foreman, and I made my way from $11 up to $15 an hour, which was a great jump. So I was 19 years old, making $15 an hour, working my tail off, making, $650 up to $850, $900 a week, depending on the hours. So I took over the responsibility at 19 of being a foreman. I was the guy driving the truck, and the employees were underneath me, and I was running the crew, and I had all this responsibility, and I got to take the work truck home, and I was so proud of myself. And maybe some of my friends were proud of me or thought I was, the guy, but I was still broke because, all the obvious reasons. So this actually went on all the way up to 25 years old. I had worked for different companies and became a foreman slash supervisor of these different landscape companies, and I was always miserable inside. I loved landscaping, and I still do today, but working for somebody else just didn't cut it. No matter how hard I tried, no matter what I did, it was a double bind. And what I mean by that is, you're screwed if you do, you're screwed if you don't. In the employee mindset, I hated my bosses. I was always upset about them, or I was talking bad about them, or on the weekends I'd be so frustrated and I'd blame it on my boss and things like that, the employee mindset. And I was always frustrated and broke. So one day, I have a buddy, my buddy Dave. He has his own construction business, and he does some landscaping on the side when he's slow. And I was in between jobs at this point a few years ago, and I was just frustrated, and I was broke, and I wanted to be independent, but I couldn't, and I was proud of myself because I'm like, I can walk into any landscape company and just walk into a supervisor position. I could just become a supervisor and demand, and I was so backwards in my thinking. So anyways, I helped him for $15 an hour for an entire day working, and I made like $150 or something. We're driving back in the truck, and it's a rainy day in Michigan. And he says, I'm Keith Kelfis. He goes, Kelfis, you can do this. This is really easy. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you can start your own business. It's really, really easy. I'm like, what do you mean? I don't have the money. I don't have all this equipment. I don't have these things. He goes, Keith, you ever heard of Craigslist? I'm like, yeah, I go on there all the time. You put an ad on Craigslist, landscaping, best deals in town, and then put your name and phone number and a little description, and then when people call you, you jump on it and say, yes, I can do this, and if you don't know, you figure out how, and then you go out and landscape, do whatever. I'm like, I don't have the equipment. He's like, Keith, if you get a job, give me $15, I'll loan you my shovel and my wheelbarrow and my shrub trimmers and things like that. So I put some ads on Craigslist, believe it or not, and I did. I put shrub trimming, gardening maintenance, pulling weeds, because I didn't have a lawnmower or anything like that. Best deals in town. And I got a call 2 days later, I got a call. Yeah, I'm looking for my, yada yada shrubs, trimming some mulch. I was so nervous. I was so scared. I went there and I quoted it off of what I would, have to make per hour plus materials, and I got the job. I went out that day, actually had to borrow my wife's dad's pickup truck, and then borrow the tools to do it from my buddy Dave for $15 or something like that. So I had a wheelbarrow and a shovel, and I went there, I pulled all the weeds, and I trimmed the shrubs. And how I got my shrub trimmers was I literally took the money for our electricity bill, and I went to Home Depot and bought a little tiny Black & Decker pair of electric shrub trimmers. And I was so nervous, my stomach was turning. And I went there, did the whole job, got it all done, and made like $160 profit in about 4.5 hours. And my wife actually came and helped me. And I go, wow. When I left and the guy shook my hand and the place looked beautiful, I finished the job, and I walked away with like $150 profit in my pocket for half a day's work. I couldn't even believe it. And I still had a day job at that time, cutting grass for another company for like, I don't know, I'd got demoted because in between jobs, it was like $10 an hour job. But anyways, it blew my mind. I used to work 2 days for that to make $150. In half a day. It's amazing. So what did I do? Instead of paying the bills, because we were behind on our bills, we were at the point where we were getting eviction notices, and I had to figure something out quick. I'd worked hard, I'd given up, I'd sacrificed, and still nothing was working. So, excuse me, getting over a short cold here, but I took that money, and I went and I bought my own wheelbarrow. I bought my own rake, and I bought my own shovel. And I kept putting ads on Craigslist. Right? And every time that phone rang, I didn't care if it was Sunday night at 9 p.m. I went out there. I drove all the way across town and met with a customer at night. I was so scared. I didn't have a nice work shirt. I have work shirts and hats and apparel and things like that now. And I would literally go in a car and I would sell myself to these people. Some people would turn me down as soon as they saw me pull up in a car. No, we're not interested. And I went out and then I got flyers made up. I started knocking on doors and passing out flyers and putting ads on Craigslist. The phone started ringing. And the next thing you know, somebody said, hey, I really like the way you did it. My cousin or whoever is, job, or my brother or sister, will you do mine as well? So there I am. Every day after work, I'd get off work at 5, 6 p.m., and I would go landscape for myself, doing side jobs until dark. And I started making, part-time off work what I was making full-time at work. I was working 80, 90 hours a week, coming home with bags under my eyes. You know how long it took me to replace my income? To leave over a decade of working for other people, miserable, to going independent on my own? 6 weeks. 6 weeks, that's all it took. From being completely dependent to independent. I woke up on a Saturday morning and I called my boss. I had this gut feeling, today's the day I quit. Because I had a side job lined up. I called him up and go, I quit, I'm done. What? You gotta be to work in 15 minutes. I'm like, I quit. My stomach was turning. I knew it was the time. It was the time of triumph. I bought a little tiny crappy old truck with rust all over it. I called it the Blue Goose. I loaded up with my tools and stuff I got from a garage sale, and I went out, and that day, I made like $350 profit in one day. That's what I used to work almost all week for. Oh my God, I was so grateful. I mean, today it's like, if I don't make $350 in a day, I'm like pissed. But, excuse me, it goes on and on and on. And as your mind opens up and you learn more, I got 2 full-time employees now, some like 140 clients. And that's very small, and I understand that. But now I'm completely independent. I can pay my bills finally. I reinvest everything back into the business. I want to tell more about the story, but the whole point is I can't even relate to the guy that I used to be. I can't relate to how I used to think. The employee victim mindset. You can do it. If you're in a job or an industry or something, if you have a talent, but you're stuck working for someone else and you're sick of it, you can totally go out on your own. We're in the age of the entrepreneur. We're in the age of the self-employed mentality, the age of being independent. You don't have to be an employee. You don't have to be stuck there anymore. And you don't have to have all or none. You don't have to just quit your job. and go start a business, start on the weekends, start at night. Find the things in your life, the habits, the things that are taking your time away, that you're wasting time on. If you're watching TV, I want you to turn the TV off. If you're sitting here watching YouTube too much, I want you to turn it off and just get out there and stick your foot in the water. Just dip your toe in the water, go out and just try, do one side job and collect that money and feel that sense of independence. It took me 6 weeks. Okay, I've tripled or quadrupled my income now in the past 2.5 years. It's been out of my own business. I started another business, and we have money to pay the bills now, money to take my wife out to eat, money to buy clothes and go on a vacation here and there, and the amount of freedom I wouldn't trade for the world, and it's only going up now, up and up and up, and it will not stop. Go independent, start your own business, and become an entrepreneur. You can totally do this. So, that's my story in a nutshell. That's kind of long, but I'm Keith Kalfas, and thank you.